In the heart of Appalachian folklore lies a mysterious tale that has captivated the imaginations of generations of researchers, historians, and the curious alike. Unexplained, ancient remains scattered across Appalachia suggest a prehistoric race once inhabited them, long before the Native Americans ever set foot here. But how and when did they get here, and where did they go? Just who were the Moon-Eyed People?
Most folks today don't even realize it, but the evidence is actually hiding in plain sight, right underneath the canopy of forest covering the vast regions of Appalachia.
There is a dim but persistent tradition of a strange white race preceding the Cherokees. Some of the stories even go so far as to locate their former settlements and to identify them as authors of ancient stone ruins found all over these mountains. The earliest reference appears to be from John Sevier, who was a frontiersman and one of the founding fathers of the state of Tennessee. Sevier was involved in several treaties that led to the removal of the Cherokee Indians. This role required him to travel great distances through the still remote and vergeous forest of Appalachia. On one such expedition in 1782, he discovered what appeared to him to be a vast military complex sitting atop a mountain in Georgia and built with architectural engineering that was foreign to the natives. And strangest of all, it bore a striking resemblance to European constructed battlements. The fort consisted of a 12-foot wide stone wall that was 2 to 8 feet high, and the width suggested that it had once been much taller. It encircled nearly 100 acres at the top of the mountain that consisted of monster ferns, fed by a spring that flowed at over 2 million gallons a day. There was evidence of 2 towers, large gates, and many fortified fighting pits. Many of the stones weighed tons. Mystified by the ancient ruin, John Sevier consulted the great Cherokee chief Okatosa, who was over 90 years old, being born in the late 1600s. The chief told Sevier that his forefathers knew the builder of the fort, and that it was built by white men from across the great water, who were here long before the natives.
The Cherokees tell us that when they first arrived in the Appalachian area, they found it inhabited by a certain moon-eyed type people who couldn't see in the daytime.
The tradition was rather ghostly. Chief Okatosa claimed that when they first arrived in the Chickamauga country, the Moon-Eyed People were already here. They were a race of fair-skinned, light-haired, blue-eyed people who looked like nothing they'd ever seen before. The natives considered them an albino race. The houses of this strange race of people were described as small circular structures made of upright logs, and the dirt that was removed from the interior of the house was thrown up on top to serve as a roof. And they were said to have occupied the country in North Carolina from the head of the Little Tennessee River to the Chickamauga Creek near Chattanooga, with forts established all along the way. The Cherokees waged war against them, and according to tradition, the last stand taken by these Moon-Eyed People was near the mouth of the Chickamauga, where they surrendered and agreed to move out if they were permitted to go in peace.
About the same time that John Sevier discovered the ruins in Georgia, a researcher named Benjamin Barton published a book that described an ancient people who were also moon-eyed, and they were first discovered in Panama by Welsh explorers in the 1700s. These explorers actually lived with them for a short while and described them as an albino race who could see better at night than in the day.
But the question remains, who were these Moon-Eyed People, and how and when did they get here? When the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto's banner waved proudly over Georgia's Fort Mountain in the early days of the 16th century, the mystery of the Moon-Eyed People was already old. But the fortress they built in defense of the Cherokee Indians still stood, and once again it protected a white people against the natives. It's still standing today, and the flaming banners of sunrise and sunset vault a mystery still unsolved. The semicircular wall encloses approximately 100 acres on the top of Fort Mountain. The steepness of the cliffs on 3 sides of the mountain form a natural defense on the east, the south, and the north. The wall contains 29 pits located at intervals of 50 or 60 feet, which a man might stand waist deep. and wield a battle axe or any other weapons he might have handy. But what if the Moon-Eyed people built this structure as something more than a fort? It turns out that there's actually a significant amount of science behind the positioning of the stones. The wall is in line with the sun's east-west axis. Perhaps the stone structure was a calendar, or a means to keep up with the growing season. The northeast position of the wall even aligns perfectly with the summer solstice.
This was important because it's possible that the Moon-Eyed people used this wall as more than protection. In fact, it's likely that they used it to predict the positions of the sun and the moon in the future. And using this knowledge to know when to plant their crops and when harvest might be late, that was powerful magic.
Still, how and when did the Moon-Eyed people first arrive? One clue can be found on this historical marker located on the shores of one of America's busiest port cities, Mobile, Alabama. In 1170, Welsh explorer Prince Madoc and his 200 men discovered Mobile Bay over 300 years before Columbus did. Madoc was so impressed by this new land that he returned to Wales for more ships and colonists.
Madoc was the illegitimate son of Owen Gwynedd, who was a prince of North Wales. And when Owen died, his sons fought amongst themselves for the throne, and soon civil war broke out. Madoc apparently decided to seek other shores, and it's believed that he made 2 and perhaps even 3 voyages to America.
Madoc set sail again, intending to return to Alabama in 1171 with 12 ships loaded with more colonists. But strangely, they were never heard from again. Is it possible that this second expedition of Madoc actually landed in Panama, resulting in the settlement of Moon-Eyed people in both Central America and Appalachia, as noted by botanist and historian Benjamin Barron? Many researchers speculate that these Welsh explorers became the Moon-Eyed people, who, due to their total isolation, initially sought shelter and hid in the cave systems of Appalachia, resulting in an albino race, and would possibly explain their poor eyesight. It would be hundreds of years later before the next known white people would arrive in America. One such explorer was Morgan Jones, who traveled inland to South Carolina, but he was captured and almost executed by a native tribe led by a light-skinned, blue-eyed chief who adorned traditional native garments. As the explorer begged for his life, he was shocked when the native chief who spared his life also spoke the Welsh language. Were these the mythical Moon-Eyed people? Were these Welsh explorers the Moon-Eyed people who the Cherokees discovered living in Appalachia when the natives first arrived? And was this mysterious stone ruin, which sat high atop Fort Mountain in Georgia, their last stand in their war with the Cherokees? In 1803, when Thomas Jefferson enacted the policy to remove all natives west of the Mississippi River, he called for the removal of what he termed Welsh Indians. And in 1804, Lewis and Clark wrote in their papers that they had met a strange tribe of Welsh Indians in southern Appalachia. Then, in 1841, a farmer in North Carolina was plowing his field when he unearthed a mysterious statue of 2 strange-looking beings that stood about 3 feet tall with large eyes. And many researchers claimed that they were solid evidence that the Moon-Eyed people were indeed here hundreds of years before the Native Americans ever reached Appalachia.
But who exactly carved this statue, and when? Was it made by the Moon-Eyed people? Did it have any connection with their study of the night sky? Some have even speculated that this statue was made by the Moon-Eyed people, but not in reflection of themselves, but possibly of aliens.
Is this statue and the ancient ruins situated atop a 2,800-foot-high mountain in Georgia the only remaining evidence of a prehistoric white race known as the Moon-Eyed people? What other secrets and clues are still hidden by the vast forest in the most remote areas of the Appalachian Mountains? And finally, will we ever fully know what happened to the Moon-Eyed people?